And if we move on to Nottingham Forest, now similar actually to Everton, of course, their appeal board paperwork, it works in the same fashion. If any breach, will be punished with a points deduction and nothing less. Do you think they are going to anticipate a points deduction, Keith? Is it now likely that they're going to get 6 points as well?
I'm afraid it does look like that. I know it seems to be a pretty minor breach. I think it's over one player, basically, from what I've been reading. But I do think, given the judgment on Everton now and the panel established that it is their first major breach, then I think there's no doubt there's going to have to be some sort of points deduction, unless there are mitigating circumstances I'm not aware of. I still believe that's the wrong sort of level of penalty. I think it's draconian. And I would hope that the commission, hearing this, understands that a suspended points deduction may be the best way forward, or a transfer ban, or a fine. I still believe this is too harsh.
And the hearing is expected to start imminently, given the verdict potentially being at the start of April. Is there any concern similar to Everton's, actually, this case could drag on dangerously close to the end of the season?
Well, there is. If you look at the timetable of events, it certainly could be. If there's an appeal, you could be sitting down before or even after the Premier League summer meeting, which is normally right after the season finishes, without knowing who's actually in the league. And that is the most damaging thing that I've ever seen in Premier League history. And it's really unfortunate. Now, they've set themselves these ridiculous timelines. And as I say, once you actually calculate them and see what could happen and the length of appeals, then yes, you could have a season finished and nobody knows what the table really means, which is terrible.
And do you think the Premier League are under pressure to deduct Forest the same amount of points as Everton? Because really anything harsh then sort of sets a benchmark. Anything lower could arguably be seen as favourable.
Yes, I agree. And I think they will be under pressure to do that. But there'll also be pressure to try and, because they're going to be changing their PSR rules again very soon. So they'll be under pressure from both sides to act as they have done with Everton, but also to act in accordance with potentially the new rules that everybody knows is coming in. So they've got themselves into a real bind, and it's just been very poor management by the Premier League powers that be.
Gary Neville has said that 6 points sets a precedent and is actually a fair charge for them. Will that, do you imagine, Keith, become the benchmark? I know you said PSR will change, but actually, is it likely going forwards that we can anticipate most clubs to receive 6 points for most charges?
It seems to be at this particular round of charges, it would be 6 points. But as I say, once they change, then I don't know how they're going to fudge it. But it does seem that seems to be the way that they've set their minds towards a penalty. And 6 points, I don't really care what Gary Neville says, but 6 points to me still is very, very harsh. And I'm sure if it was Man United, he wouldn't be happy about it.
And do you think it puts them really in real danger of dropping into that drop zone and actually getting relegated?
I think it does. Still a long time to go in the season, but we've seen. I think at Everton, people underestimate the impact that had on the squad and the players, the management, and the fans. It does drain you, and it's certainly like a feeling of dread starts to come across. And as I've said before, players who may be coming out of contract will start thinking about moving. They're going to, worry about things like that. And so do they really perform at 100% when those sort of things are in their mind? It's a difficult situation to be in for any club. And so I would think the bookies may see the odds shortening on Forest in terms of relegation.
You've just watched a segment from Football Insider's brand new podcast, The Inside Track, with me, Lewis Pearce, alongside the guests on the show. Thanks very much for tuning in. Please do give the video a like, comment your thoughts on the topic, and feel free to share on your social media pages. If you want to listen to the full podcast episode, click the link in the description below. Keep your eyes peeled for plenty more content and exclusives here on The Inside Track.